Log on to kcbzradio.com and check the schedule for Situation and Circumstance Live, complete with music, live phone call access, and additional audio and programming. Anthony and TBT would love for you to be a part of the live broadcast and recording of Situation and Circumstance at kcbzradio.com.
Situation and circumstance. Fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance. Can we see each other with only a glance? Situations and circumstances. Fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance. Can we see each other with only a glance?
Cake mixing, race mixes, matrix, kill the witches, 3 digits, made of 6s.
Once again, I need to clear my throat. Let me clear my... All right, that might be before some people's time. Once again, welcome to Situation and Circumstance here, of course, at kcbzradio.com. And, of course, we are here every second and fourth Tuesday live, but you can listen to our show certainly every Tuesday of the month. And what do we do here? We sit in that that sweet spot of perpetual remix. We are here. We sit in that sweet spot of perpetual metamorphosis layered with perspective. All over the world, there is a situation and circumstance. And we're going to get down today. Of course, in the house today, we have Julius. Say something to the people, Julius.
What up?
That's my version of crickets. Say something to the people, Tiana.
Hello, hello.
That's what I'm saying. At least we got 2 hellos from her. And it was melodic. And it was melodic. And you're like, hey, yeah. Right. Yeah.
You done?
That's what I'm talking about.
Or are you finished?
Am I done? Or am I cooked done? Or am I what kind of done? I ain't done. Hell no, I ain't done.
He's a little on the rare side, so he's got some time. Got thrown back on the grill.
Thrown right back on the grill, right? Just a little bit.
Sear him off a little.
You know, what you know about the word sear?
Oh, I know all about cooking a steak, so I'm assuming like they correlate.
Okay, now I'm just gonna take that strike back because just by how you said that, you're not cooking.
I am cooking. No, don't try to play me.
You can you cook?
Yes, of course I can.
How does that make you feel that a man is asking you, can you cook?
It doesn't make you feel any type of way.
Right, and why should it?
I don't know. It doesn't.
Thank you.
You just, you're just another doubter, another hater. These haters on my body, shake them off. In the words of Young and May.
Not the hater.
Wow.
All right. Well, I tell you what we'll do today, we have a couple of guests in the house, and we'll get to introducing them when we return. Today is a freestyle project. We're going to talk about some random, delicious things. It ranges from, I don't know, what have we talked about in the past? Anything from your favorite fetish to potentially how you feel about an angel, and maybe both of them combined. Maybe you have a fetish for an angel. I don't know. But we're going to talk about a lot of...
I'm sure there's a name for that, by the way, too. I can find it.
For an angel?
We're going to look that up.
Angel
when we come
fetish.
back, Tiana's going to tell us about some angel fetish.
Wow.
And I don't mean with angel food cake, although I can think of some sexual things you can do with that.
If it's a bunk cake. I'm just saying.
She gonna tell us about that too. We gonna talk about sex and dessert. How about that? When we come back, we talking about sex and dessert. We'll introduce some guests here at kcbzradio.com. This is Situation and Circumstance. Hold on.
Log on to kcbzradio.com and check the schedule for Situation and Circumstance Live, complete with music, live phone call access, and additional audio and programming. Anthony and TBT would love for you to be a part of the live broadcast and recording of Situation and Circumstance at kcbzradio.com.
Once again, we're back at Situation and Circumstance, or rather, we're on Situation and Circumstance, and this is kcbzradio.com. When you last heard us, we were talking about some random things, which is kind of what our show is about today. It's just random expression. And before we left, we had talked about sex, and I think it was sex and fruit. What was it?
Cakes.
Blunt sex and
angel food cakes.
Angel food cake.
And I said probably bunk cake.
Well, and I think you promised us some experienced conversation based on that. Can you just tell us a little bit about the sex and the cake, or however that goes?
There's no sex cake. I didn't find anything on that. But I was trying to find a fetish specifically for angels, but there isn't one. There's just wanting to have sex with an inanimate object and wanting to transform yourself into one. So, like, say you like have a fetish for a statue or a doll or a mannequin, like you're being turned on by either wanting to be like statuesque and just be frozen there, or like having intercourse with that.
Wait. Inanimate object. So is a dildo inanimate if it doesn't vibrate?
I guess it's technically inanimate, but like the idea of a dildo is that it's like a penis versus like a Barbie doll. You're like, oh yeah, this Barbie doll turns me on. Like that's a different experience.
So you said if somebody stick a
Barbie
dildo
doll?
up on, I mean a Barbie doll as opposed to a dildo,
Yeah.
then okay. What?
Okay. That's the type of show we have today, brother.
And then there's listeners. Okay.
Moms to listen to this at home.
I want to welcome. We have a couple of guests here. We may have some other people stopping by, but I want to certainly welcome. And it feels kind of strange welcoming and inviting some people, and they come in and like we're talking about sex and cake and what we can do with a doll. But I want to welcome Tyler to the show and Ab to the show.
Todd.
Excuse me, Todd. I just want to call him Tyler, right? He's told me that earlier, and I still said Tyler. I want to welcome Todd to the show and Ab. How you guys doing? Say something to the people.
What's up? This is Abner. How you guys doing?
Good evening. Just glad to be here.
Oh yeah, you're Julius's friend. Did you guys go to a school where people are like less is more? If someone asks you something, just say
That's
hi.
Julius's response every time. That's why.
Yes.
And it had the same cadence too.
Here's what's funny.
It's,
We talked about the sex. So when you listeners, you didn't hear it, of course, but we were talking about sex and mangoes and some other stuff. And then Ab said,
I wasn't.
Bend
Everybody,
her-
I was not. That's just for the record.
Neither was Todd. Okay.
he said, bend her over while eating a ham. Bend her
ham
over while
sandwich.
eating a ham
I was
sandwich.
like, wait, where's this going?
And I'm just curious about like, is that something that like have you done that? Have you?
If I had pickles on the sandwich, maybe. I mean, no.
Okay.
You know, I like my condiments.
Okay. The key word in there is condom. Make sure you use a condom if you're gonna use condiments,
Right.
or bring a condom and a pack of mints,
Hey.
because you may not need the condom if your breath don't have no mint in it.
Whoa.
We can just go around with that one,
Just putting
right?
you up on game.
Just putting you right. We gonna check that one. So what's up, family? What we want to talk about? We can talk about Trump and this impeachment thing. I'm a little bored of it already. It just started, and I'm a little bored, but I'm excited that that he got his face slapped a little bit. I feel like he deserved to get his face slapped just a little bit, and I feel like that's what happened with the impeachment. It's just he's getting his face slapped. I don't see him disappearing out of office.
As a narcissist, I'm not sure if it's making the impact on him is as great as I would like. And because a narcissist is going to turn it on other people, and it's never going to be their fault. So I don't know the value in him getting his face slapped, but I think I got personal satisfaction on action being taken, things moving along, but who knows what's going to happen from this point.
It doesn't change anything.
Yeah,
It
doesn't
doesn't
really.
change anything.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I'm leaning toward it not really making a difference because I feel like Trump is a man that is mostly concerned about his pockets. And I think it'd be more impactful to take his paper, you know. I don't think he care about that as long as his pockets is right. I don't think he give a damn.
Oh, yeah.
And I would like to add that the existing social infrastructure will not change whether he's impeached or not. Meaning, it's not just his administration, but I would argue that Congress, including the Senate, allowed, roughly 700,000 people to lose, their food stamp benefits. Mm-hmm. So how does him not being impeached or getting impeached stop that? Mm-hmm. In my opinion, there's roughly 600 congressional representatives, not counting the Senate. Why could they focus on at least trying to withhold someone from losing their food stamp benefit over whether or not the president gets impeached. I mean, they always say they can do two things at once, but it seems like poor, working, and disenfranchised people always take a backseat even to something like this.
Well, the interesting thing is, so would it have? There's nothing that we really could do to Trump that would have made a difference when you have someone who just really doesn't care about stuff. So if you have somebody that just doesn't care about pretty much anything, then there isn't like this recourse of doing something to him that he's going to care about. So for me, what I look at it as is, let's say like you're a child and you got spanked, right? And then later on in life, you go back and tell the parents, when you used to spank me, it really didn't hurt. Yeah, but it made me feel better to do it to you, right? So I feel like even if this is not going to necessarily do something to destroy Trump or that kind of thing, and maybe he does or does not care, I still would rather it go along with his legacy, the same way he's attempted to destroy others.
Yeah. I think really the only thing is, in the words of Malcolm, if the chickens came home to roost, that's something that can happen to him. And that's all we gonna say.
I'd also like to add that it's interesting that of all the things that they tried to impeach him on, that they chose this time to do it. It seemed to me that the Democrats made a move to impeach Trump, quote unquote, when it seemed like he was attacking Joe Biden, which I believe is the party's heir apparent to him. They didn't try to attack him, if you would, over not revealing his taxes. They didn't try to attack him over some of the moves he made when it came to the children in cages, this food stamp thing, health care, the attacks on the Affordable Health Care Act. But it seemed like this was more of a power play to say, you can't undermine our attempt to put who we want in power, who we also know will continue the same type of regime. And that, for me, is a little telling. I would applaud the impeachment process if I knew that it was going to come with, as I said, some social and economic infrastructural change. But if it doesn't, then what have we done? If we move him out the way, does that bring in Pence? Mm-hmm. And for many people who've looked at it, they say it's even worse.
Come on, brother, with the suit.
Is it worse? How would it be worse now? Because there's only, a few months left? So in other words, if he was fully impeached and it all went through and everything's a wrap with him, and then they brought in Pence would be there like a month or two, with the just figuring out the length of time that it's even going to take this to go through.
So my thought pattern, by no means am I an expert, but if you have a vice presidential candidate who then becomes president, for many people who may have not thought that he had been a good leader, now they may think he's a good leader, which might push him up when it comes to election time. Why I think it's worse is because Pence's views seem to be even more radical than President Trump's. And if they are, I would hate to see what changes he tries to implement while he's there, and then if he actually ends up winning, what he can do with those changes, especially when it comes to the religious right, evangelicals, groups like that who have a somewhat, I would say, unorthodox view of how religion and the government should intermingle and what direction our government should take under that. By no means am I claiming to be an expert, but I guess what concerns me then is if you move out one person and you bring in someone else who's possibly more radical, and we don't change, and let me say about social and infrastructural, meaning 700,000 could lose their food stamps, meaning at least good 40 to 50 million people we already know exist in poverty, and then you add on low income and people who are underpaid. Well, let's say 80 million people. Now we add on someone who would probably increase the tax benefits or keep them the same. We add in someone who would be more repressive with their law enforcement social apparatus. Then what bothers me about that is all we've done is supplanted one tyrannical leader for another, and now we've legitimized it by impeaching the first one.
But, I mean, come on, let's be real. It don't matter if the next president is a Democrat or a Republican, and which of those it is, because it really is not gonna. Let's rephrase that. I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, because I'm sure there's certain ways that it will matter indirectly and maybe in some cases directly. But the bottom line is, neither parties are really set up and placed in positions where it's going to make that big of an impact for those of us who are melanated. It's just not going to happen.
Well, just look at Congress.
And it hasn't happened. And so that's why, like, I love what Brother Umar said when he said that what we need to be doing is creating our own social party, right? And then we can impact things a different way, and as opposed to going out and there's two things to that, right? So I don't agree with him in the sense of discouraging people to vote. Even if those votes we feel like won't matter because of what I just said, right? Whether it's for a Republican or Democrat, it's really not going to help us. The reason I don't like the discouragement of a vote, though, is because if we're discouraging people to vote who it may have taken some time to even encourage to finally get down there, then even when we start our own party, we're going to have the same issue. So we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? We want to still have a situation where we're encouraging our people to vote just so they're in practice of it. Even if this isn't who we need, even if voting for these particular individuals is not really going to support us in many ways, or what do you feel about that? Anybody?
So why vote? If you just said it won't support us, or why would we vote as a black community for someone who does not have black issues in their mind, like in their peripheral, in their body? Because we came out in record numbers for Barack Obama, and nothing happened. Yeah. So why get in that practice of voting for that? If the proof is
in the practice of voting, though. But there's many people who, when Obama came, it was their first time ever voting.
Yeah, and
I find a problem with that because part of the thing that happens is people are not voting they're not voting for their local. We need to be voting for people who are in our local community.
Correct.
So what I'm saying is that. So again, I'm just saying that for you, maybe you're going to hurry as soon as we start needing to vote on something for our local community. Maybe you're the type that rushes out there and does it. But for all those people who didn't vote until Barack got in there, well, we need to. I'm just stating that we need to do things that encourage people to exercise their voice a certain way. And so if it requires them to do that in order for us to get to this other point, I think we can do that.
I would add, though, maybe we need to look at the correlation of people who vote for the president as well as for people who vote for local politics, because that doesn't always follow. You always have a larger number who vote for what they consider the big elections. I ran for school board twice. So in my election, it was in November. Thousands of people voted for the governor. Less of those thousands even voted for the mayor. But even fewer of those same people who voted for the mayor and who voted for the governor, who voted for all these propositions, actually voted for school board. So to go to the first guy's point about voting, if we can encourage those people to vote all the way through, then I do agree with you. There's strength in that. But if they're not voting locally and simply voting for the president, that's problematic. I do agree with you, though. I do think we need to vote. But I believe this, too. Although whether we put Democrat or Republican, it may not impact us at the level that we want it to. But I do think there are certain policies that different candidates will put in there, will be placed in there, so that it will make it much easier to get a more progressive candidate in there. We can make the policies, for example, the Green New Deal, which as we know is not just one deal. It's a set of policies that they want to push through. Now, if you have someone like a President Trump, you'll never get that pushed through, and you'll never get any of those policies enacted. Whereas if you get someone, let's just say like a President Obama, well, at least you start off with the Affordable Health Care Act, which could lead to universal health care. We know it wasn't a perfect plan. We all understand that. I mean, the idea that you would be taxed if you don't have health care, but it's supposed to help out those who are already struggling, seems a little paradoxical, a little hypocritical. But the fact that there's something in there for many people means that there's a start. So that's why I think it's important that if we impeach him, we put someone in there who can at least do a little bit more than just start the conversation, but push those conversations. Whereas someone like a Pence who would take us back from those conversations.
Okay, so who's that person? That starts the conversation.
Let's welcome
Eric B. Let's welcome Eric B. He's in the building as well from Generation X.
Hey, one love. Just to throw this out, the impeachment process in itself, two things I want to speak on. One, the impeachment. It's not actually to remove him.
Right. That's
right. So that's not going to happen.
Right.
right? Trump is not about to leave office.
If the Senate doesn't vote it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. In my beliefs, Trump is not leaving office in terms of the impeachment process and then the removal happening, right? I believe this is to sustain him and then also to help prevent re-election and then to help prevent any of the things that he wants to push. It puts a stain on anything after that because now he's corrupt, right? And
Political
reasoning
strategy there.
Yeah, just strategy, right? And then reasoning and why because there's several things that we as a public can see. Why didn't he do this? Why didn't they do this earlier? Right? He did all these different things, but a lot of that strategy was also because we know what game is, and we know where the weasel was about to weasel out of certain things. So I believe they were looking for strategic things that could happen where they could go, we can actually do, we'll get this through, right? Which they did. And I believe that there was enough wiggle room in many of the other things that he was doing and enough people involved for him to wiggle out of a lot of the other things that he was doing because he had so many people hands inside of stuff where they were actually able to get him on some things where it was actually his hands on it. So now it's like we can actually tag this impeachment to his name, begin to start staining what he does and kind of prevent some of the things from happening that he's trying to push through, and then also reduce the chances, a serious reduction of him ever even coming back to office. But as far as Democratic and Republican parties, neither one are for the African American community, right? But in terms of voting, I do believe it's important that we vote on those 2-year voting cycles, right? Because we need to be selecting people in our local government, in the Senate, in the Congress, because those are where the laws actually get changed. And those are the ones impeaching presidents, right? So those elections are the ones that we need to be out pushing and encouraging that black vote to vote for, because because politics is bogus in many ways anyway, right? But there are individuals that really do care, that don't get to see the light of day because they're in those smaller elections that we're not voting in, right? And if we can begin to get brothers like yourself, right? If we can get brothers like yourself inside of these local offices, boom, we can start seeing some changes, right? And so our votes will stand stronger inside of our smaller communities, right? Where the numbers are, where we saturate those votes, so we can make changes in our cities, in our local schools. We can do that.
Will
right?
that happen? Because it's a system in place. I don't
You
believe
say, will it happen?
Can it?
Yeah,
is that feasible? Because I believe
can.
there's a system in place that will not allow anything beneficial to the black collective to ever happen on this land. And when you look at other demographics, such as the Asian community, they're not tripping about being minorities or being integrated. They've never tripped about that. They took it another method. They had another method to that goal. We have the same goal, but I think we have to change the method that we're going about it. And I don't think voting is ever that method for black people to get to that goal.
For us, it is in the sense of it's one of. It's not the method, right? It's one of the different strategies. It's one of the tools. It's just like when you go build a house, you can't build the whole house with a screwdriver. You need the screwdriver, you need some hammers, you need some nails, you need all these different components, right? And one of those components is voting in your local government, right? Because if you can put people into the positions that actually care about these things, now you can begin to change what's happening in your local community, right? And I get what you're saying in terms of nothing is designed for us to win in this land. You're right. Nothing is designed for us to win in this land. But that doesn't mean that we can't win.
No, not at all. No, not at all.
We can use different tools that we have.
And we got to keep in mind, too, that, let us keep in mind that if you look at the census, 70-something%, I don't know, maybe about 77%, don't quote me, but 70-something% of this country is European American. How much say should we have in there? And I'm going to say this. It may urinate a few people off, but how much say should we have? Right. How much say should we have in that, as opposed to doing the things that we need to do to enhance what we thought we should, what we later on found out we should have did at first, right? So one of the things you said is Chinese or Asian Americans or what have you, they they're not concerned about this. They have their own communities and they're working well within those communities. Okay, but we don't have that. It's not the lack of it's the lack of trying. We've tried that, and I'm not saying we should give up on that. But to me, that sounds like where we should be taking the fight is to getting us together on a platform that allows for all of our differences to be okay with each other, and then creating our own space, as opposed to worrying about the space that we have with underneath people who could care less about what happens to us.
Well, the thing is, in my opinion, we only, like, as a whole, you said, Caucasian 70% in America. Black people as a whole, 2.6% of the wealth in America. And where the wealth is where the concern is. And that's why they really ignore us. And I agree with what you said on this land. I don't think there's a way that we could vote our way into any type of equality. And what we do, the closest thing we got is locally. And then when we do get something on that level, it's not going to be just for us. It's going to be for everybody. And I think that's about the closest we can get. And I understand the efforts. If we have our own political party like ADOS, yes, it is important for us to vote. But I think we need to take that energy and to put it elsewhere so we can build up infrastructure, because we got 2.6% of the wealth. And we need to put that together so the next, maybe it could be 5% in a year or two.
And to go with that, but just to tag on you real quick, and then I'm out. But the vote part. That is a 15-minute process, right? It takes 15 minutes one day every 2 years. It really doesn't take all of our strategies or all of our energies or all it has to do is just say, hey, everybody, go vote for this. And then on that day, every 2 years, we all take 15 minutes, stand in line, check a box. And it doesn't really reduce how much energy we have to put into. There's so much other things we have to do to mobilize. Right. That's just one piece. You get what I'm saying? And it's not like if we are thinking that one vote, that one 15-minute checkbox is what's going to get us equality. Oh yeah, you're so freaking smoking crack. That's what we would have said on Gen X.
I think you're right about that. It's only 15 minutes, and that really doesn't hurt anybody. But I think it's the time that we spend watching CNN and watching these people arguing back and forth, and we spending hours and hours and talking to other people, going back and forth about this. Trump is a jerk, but who hasn't been a jerk? You know what I'm saying? So why are we all of a sudden getting extra mad at him? They all been jerks. None of them been for us. They ain't never gave us nothing on this land that us black people can benefit from. So, we know what to expect. And I think, we could go down and vote, but I still think that time that we spending arguing back and forth and getting mad at people with MAGA hats, we need to be using the energy for something better.
That's right. I will throw this in though. There was a time when we actually had our own economic infrastructure, and what happened?
You're talking about the Wall Street.
Wall Street was one, and we saw that even if you would, the 30s and 40s, especially parts of New York and all that. And integration is what undermined at least the stuff 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. But then of course, Black Wall Street, and if you want to argue in Philadelphia with was it Operation Move? Those places were
something happened right out here closer to us in Bakersfield. There was a mayor or something of some sort, and he had these homes and houses and their own water and all these different things. I'll do some more research on that. Maybe we'll look at that as we come back from break.
And we know those places were bombed. In Philly, it was one of the first American cities, obviously. Populated by us, they were bombed. I only throw that out there to say I do believe that we do need to focus on things other than voting, but I do like the idea of us voting. But at the same time, we have to remember that we have tried that in the past. Other communities weren't bombed like we were. And when you look at some of the Asian communities, when you think about the Japanese, we know they were interned, but they also gained reparations because of that internment. We know that the Chinese were given stores and laundromats strictly for them, whereas African Americans really haven't been given anything.
We never will be.
Even though when you ask, to go back to your original question of should we be concerned when 70% of this is European, I think is what you called it. Well, I wouldn't be concerned as much if my tax dollars didn't fund that 70%, because all of our tax dollars do. And if you don't pay taxes, they can put you in jail for that. And they have done it. So the reason why I think we need to be concerned, because they're going to the whole wealth argument, part of our wealth could be those tax dollars. And that's not just property tax, but that's sales tax, that's annual income tax. Now, if we could take all that money that we pay in taxes to our local and our state and our federal government, which we all are saying don't really protect us, and we put that towards building that 5%, take 2.6 to 5%, I wholeheartedly agree. But for right now, part of the reason why I think we vote is because, I hate to use that old term, but well, no taxation really without representation. And it boggles my mind to think about this. When I know there have been greater minds who've thought about this. My tax dollars go to fund police departments. Those same police departments come and shoot me. So I'm basically paying to put a hit out on myself. Now, I can't stop the tax dollars, but I vote, hopefully, to put in a mayor who is, I hate to use the term sympathetic, but aware of that, so they change those type of police departments. I vote to put in school boards, and I won't go off, I mean, we all know, put in school boards who are more cognizant to the fact that African-American children nationally are doing better, and part of it is because of implicit bias. But I do agree it has to be more of a concerted effort. We have to do multiple things. I just wonder if, especially in our community, if we start saying don't vote, does that then draw away the people who would vote and then also do some of those other activities?
I
think it's problematic.
Say don't vote.
Because there's
don't vote.
Right. And I think there's a lot, and I think there's a substantial number of people who actually ascribe or prescribe to that, because to go to Julius's point, has voting effectively changed the substantive, and that's social, economic, and political structure of our community. I mean, integration came through the courts. We didn't vote in a president who said, I'm going to integrate everybody. That actually came through the Supreme Court. You guys already know that. So what is it? I think maybe for people who say to vote, including myself, maybe we may need to explain the efficacy and the effectiveness of voting.
And that's my point. So if somebody's going to say don't vote, I'm not against the person who says don't vote.
No, of course not.
And I'm not against the person who says vote. But if you say don't vote, it should be a don't vote because of, don't vote but, don't vote, and instead channel that energy here, not just a don't vote. Now, if that became the slogan, don't vote, then obviously there will be something underneath that says something that we need. It's interesting how I started this off saying, well, we started it off about some other sexual things, but we started off saying we wasn't going to talk about Donald Trump and the impeachment, and yet we allowed ourselves to get pulled into it here and there anyway, which is okay.
It ended in a conversation that was significant, regardless of if it started about the little chicken nugget.
Yes. Well, what we're going to do at this point is I want to go ahead and jump into just a little bit of music, and we're going to come back and talk about a few more random things here at KCBZ Radio. Situation and circumstances.
Log on to kcbzradio.com and check the schedule for Situation and Circumstance Live, complete with music, live phone call access, and additional audio and programming. Anthony and TBT would love for you to be a part of the live broadcast and recording of Situation and Circumstance at kcbzradio.com.
All right. And once again, we're here at kcbzradio.com, here at Situation and Circumstances. A couple of months ago, I had really wanted to chime in on this, and I didn't have the opportunity. And I don't know if you guys heard about, there was just like this uproar on Facebook because a guy said, apparently a man was paying child support, and that money was being used not only for his child, but it was also being used for her other child that is not his biological child. And so there was the argument, of course, was that he felt as though if he's paying his child support and it's for his child, then it shouldn't be able to be used for the other child who's not his. Now, I've heard that argument in a lot of different ways. I've heard, like, if I'm paying child support, then she shouldn't be able to use that money or he or she, there are women that pay child support to the man as well. But that whoever that other individual is you're paying child support to shouldn't be able to use that for anything other than things that have to do with caring for the child. And I'm curious about any or everyone's thought on that.
I feel like who cares? As long as your child is being taken care of and you're not, like, because I don't understand how child support works. I'm assuming that it's based off of the income of the person paying, and you have there's a set amount of money that you are supposed to pay, and that doesn't change. And so if she has excess money and she can use that to help her other child as well, it doesn't matter as long as your child is healthy and has the things that he or she needs. I'm not sure what the problem is.
And I see Todd nodding and agreeing with that.
It's funny because when I hear arguments such as, well, my child should get all the money, but this other child shouldn't, I kind of think about when we pay taxes. Who really runs up on your state or local government and says, I only want 20% to go to the police and 30% to go to the fire department and 20% to go here? You don't really get to determine. You pay your tax.
That don't mean we shouldn't get to determine, though.
But
just because we don't.
But you don't really get to determine whether or not how much percentage goes in there until typically people come out to vote and there's a need where we show, okay, where the fire department aren't getting enough. But in this case, to go back to Tiana's point, if your child is being taken care of, what is the argument other than, I think, or I should say, where else is this argument coming from other than, in my opinion, kind of spite? You're so concerned about someone else's child being taken care of, but your child is already being taken care of? I don't know. That's a bit telling to me.
I made the noise, but then Julius did the look. I was like,
that's
and he did
not
the
my
look.
responsibility. That's not my responsibility. That's like, I have nothing to do. I don't even know this child. I'm obligated to take care of that child. And if I bounce or if she bounces, the agreement, if we're doing the court document or whatever that is, it's to pay or to help that particular child. We had sex or we did whatever we did to produce this child, not the other child. So it's like, I'm not funding that. I'm not, these baby kids, I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Wow. I think it's interesting how quickly we jump from this child to baby's kids. That's first. But secondly, here's my question. Is your child being taken care of? From what I understand, yes. Yeah. Now, if your child isn't being taken, my apologies, please.
Well, I feel like if I have a baby mama and she has 2 children and I'm giving her money and she ain't got no food in the house and they're only one sandwich and my child gets it, I understand that. We can cut that sandwich in half 3 ways and do what you got to do. But then when it comes to certain things like, hey, I need, $600 for this or this bill or whatever, and then, the money just disappears and you don't really feel like it's being distributed properly, I can understand that. As a solution, I feel like possibly just like weddings have like a gift registry, like, all right, well, my man need child support, he got food, he got a baseball practice, and then there may be a registry, and then you can maybe structure it to where it can go where you feel comfortable or where it's really needed. I think that might be a while to go.
That sounds like a solution, but it also sounds like a solution in support of the absent parent's money should go towards their child only. Yep. Because that registry would represent you buying things with that money that came, right? I love how you said it, but it still feels to me like it would be in support of that.
But it's interesting.
And then you nodded like seemingly in agreement with it, Todd.
Only in the sense of, because he said if it was determined that somehow either the money wasn't being spent properly or my child somehow wasn't being taken care of. But to go back to the original, I was under the impression, and please correct me because I didn't see the Facebook post, was the person's child who was complaining, were they being taken care of? Were they suffering because there was possibly another child or other children also using that money?
One of the particulars, just one of, was, for instance, he paid the child support and she went out and with that money, instead of her buying, it was about school clothes. And so instead of that child getting his child getting as many school clothes as he would have got with that paycheck for child support, it was split. And so his child ended up with less. So he then had to give more for that child because it was split between both children.
He didn't add any of these details when he originally told this.
Now, hold on. Because I didn't give those details because I feel like there's a situation and circumstance to all of it, right? There's a situation that it could be this way, it could be that way. What situation do you need it to be for it to be okay for somebody to send their money for their child and it gets split?
When your child is getting everything that they need and they're not, like, obviously in the perfect situation, the mom is holding it down too. She's doing as much as she can. And with that extra income that she's getting to help her child, everyone can be A-okay. But in the case where the mom is relying on the father of her child to provide for her, then that becomes, when it's more of a no, it's going to be a no for me. Because
what do you mean? No,
he shouldn't be supporting both of her children, especially if the child is not his. But like, if she's doing okay and she's stable and everyone's healthy, everyone has everything that they need, I don't see a problem in her spending a little money on that kid.
Any and every time she uses that man's money on both children, right? Any and every time she uses it on someone other than the person that it was intended for, to me. Well, number one, that shouldn't be, it is, because no one goes after it, but shouldn't even be legal. Because according to the law, that money is supposed to go to that child. If you're using that money for something other than for what its intent was, then how is that fair? You didn't have that other child, and this is not me saying whether I'm for or against it. This is just me posing the questions. How is that fair that you spend money on the next person's child? I understand like some of us I think that it can be a choice. Like, I have a big heart, and when I go get the kid, I'm gonna go get both kids because his father's not in the picture, and I'm just that type of man that I'm just gonna do this. That's more of a choice though, as opposed to I sent you this money for this child. And anytime you use it for the other child too, you're using my money for something other than what its intent was. Why? I'm trying to wrap my head around. I'm not looking necessarily just for the moral implication of why that is or is not right, but even the legal obligation there.
I feel like it really depends on the situation with the two children, because if you started dealing with the woman and you knew that she had another child, that plays a factor in it, because, that's part of the household. Whereas if the second child came in after your child, then that's different. And it also makes a big difference if the woman is also making the other man pay child support. He might be, paying his child support in wood and she ain't tripping, but you got to pay. So there are factors. There are other factors that change that circumstance, because there'll be times where one of the children's father pays child support and the other one, well, he ain't paying in money.
You said wood as a figure of speech or wood?
Wood.
Okay. That's all I needed to confirm. It's like, wait.
You know exactly what you're talking about.
And to go to the
now
point,
you're speaking my language. Excuse me.
To go to the point to the household, if we just took our society in general, there are certain things that we have to pay taxes for, right? Like, let's just say cleaning up the air. Even if everyone doesn't pay taxes, the air still needs to be clean. People are just going to benefit, even those people who do not pay those taxes. There are other things that will come into play. But you're not going to say, well, give me my, 0.5 centimeters of air and no one else can share it. It just doesn't work like that. A household is similar. If the mom goes out and buys, some wings, are you telling me that the court is going to say, well, because the father of one child subsidize those wings, the other children in the house can't eat? Legally, I don't think that's even feasible. And I don't think they would do
that. Means, wait a minute.
No, to go to your point, because you said legally, I don't think the court
just don't get no sauce on his wings.
But what I am saying is then what that means is that in that scenario that you just said, if she only can get one pack of chicken, and she has to use, in other words, if she can't afford to care for both children, then she shouldn't have them both.
But wait, no, let's go back to the scenario now.
saying,
Wait, no,
so-
let's
so
go back
what
to
I'm
the scenario.
saying-
I'm not
saying
disagreeing, but
is-
let's go back to the scenario. She gets one pack of wings. Let's just say a 12-pack. Are you telling me that the son of that man or daughter of that man eats all 12 wings?
That's kind of ridiculous.
Exactly.
No,
and I
but
think
I'm
the
saying
courts
it-
would
no,
say that.
Well,
though.
I'm saying
The courts
it's
would-
a ridiculous suggestion.
No, but I think the court would not say, well, you know what? You bought 12 wings, but because the money came primarily from one child's father, the other child can't eat. I wouldn't even
what
see
they
that happen.
should say is just the same thing that they would say to someone who's on welfare. What can be said is that if you don't know how to manage your money in a way where this amount that you're getting, because what should happen is first of all, the parent shouldn't be relying simply on the child support being received to take care of the entire household for all of the other kids.
I'm not disagreeing, but we were focusing. Wait a second, though. We were focusing strictly on our scenario. I'm sorry, Abby's about to come in.
I'm just saying it's called hand-me-down wings.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, if we focus on our scenario, I don't know if the courts are really going to say a reasonable person who buys a pack of wings that feeds the household is simply going to limit someone else who didn't contribute from getting those wings. I can't see the courts doing that.
But I don't think I see the example that you're giving. I just don't believe that your example. I don't think it's a fitting example because the same way that you buy this pack of chicken and it's being shared with both children, even though it was bought with money from this particular father. Well, maybe the time before there was something else that was bought with this other money and it was shared.
Exactly.
But what I am saying, so I'm not saying that you buy the 12 packs and because it was bought with this, you have to split it. But there's a distinct difference between buying a pack of chicken and say buying $600 worth of school clothes and $300 goes to your child and the other $300 goes to the other child, but all $600 came from the same man for his one child.
How do you
and
know
his child only got $300 of that?
How do you know that that both children can't wear the same clothes? Because then all 600 go in the same pot. Similar to the chicken, everybody can eat from that 12. Well, if the children are of similar size, varying ages, but of similar size, even if I split it 300 and 300, the son of the father who contributed more, his son actually may be able to wear those clothes. And if he can, then are we saying that that's okay? That's why I have to go back to what the father actually said was, based on the example you've given us, that he didn't think it was right that he should be supporting two kids, which we all agree. But to my original point, the young lady, Tiana said, or T-Dub as she's known out here, if your child is being taken care of, then the excess, why is he that concerned about it?
And
because he worked to send that money to his child.
Yeah, I agree.
Knowing full well that
It's
she
his
could have
child.
some children or that she had a child.
But it's his
I
child.
think
It's
those are
his
two
child.
scenarios.
He's
And the
focusing
court said he needed to pay child support for his child. The court didn't say he needed to pay child support for
The household.
all the children in the house.
Well, first off, I
It's
would
for
like
his child.
No,
That's
I
why
don't-
it's called child support.
Well, yeah, but the
because
court
it's
is-
for support of your
family
child.
support.
Well, but the
Right.
court, I
you don't
don't
have
think
to
is-
call it household support then.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
But they just might. I mean, I would like to actually see the law that says that when you are taking care of your child of a single parent household and there are multiple children involved, that money that is provided by one parent can't be applied to other children in the house. I would love to see that.
I would say
if
that
you bring that chicken wing argument to court,
do any of us have that? I'm not even trying to be
gonna get the-
facetious. Do we know?
well, here's what I know.
Oh,
What I know is that well, tell me when you're ready.
I'm listening.
Okay, because I can't tell if we talking at the same time.
Oh, my apologies.
You don't gotta apologize. It's what we do on this show all the time is interrupt each other. We
Oh,
just
okay.
I don't interrupt people. Okay? I allow
no,
people.
we good, Todd. But here's what I say to it. I just think that we don't really have to see a law to know that there is a flaw or right or wrong way that we can see this, or a situation and circumstantial way that we can see this. We don't have to see the law for that. So in other words, we know about a lot of laws that are in place, and just because if we look them up, just because we read it and it says it's the law, doesn't mean that it's a just law, right? So it's similar, not to get back on this bandwagon, but it's similar to like when people say, our police wouldn't be killing as many black people. They just need to be trained. Well, if you don't got to train a police to not shoot a white kid, why do you got to train them not to shoot someone black, right? So I'm
there's no
saying
law that
say,
justifies a police officer shooting black kid and not shooting white kid. In this case, going back to our point,
there kind of is, because what they do, it doesn't say in the law you get to shoot black kids, but every time they shoot one, they use the law to defend it,
or the avoidance of that law. But in this case, focusing on what the father said. His child had a certain amount of money devoted to him or dedicated to him. The mother then used, from what I can gather, some excess, but then you added some things to it. If the child, in our original argument, myself and Tiana was, if your child is suffering, then of course we don't want the mother to misappropriate those funds. But if your child has what they need, then the excess needs to be applied to the house, because if the mother, who is the primary household leader, if you would, or head of household, if she's struggling to try to take care of some other child, that is invariably and indirectly going to affect her taking care of your child.
Right. And then so should the children still be there? Like, how do you get
What do you mean be there? How is there an option?
Here's what
Take
I mean
them out?
by that. If both kids are... If both kids are in the house, if both kids are in the house, that's a remix. If both kids are in the house and they're hungry, mind you, I got a heart and understand. I know what I would do, but I also understand where a person is coming from when they say, if both kids are in the house and they're both hungry and mama has no money, and my money goes in there because I want to make sure my child eats. Yeah, one could argue, oh, that's pretty stingy or whatever they want to call it. But if your interest is in your own child and you give her some money and then she takes that and then 2 days later they're both starving because she spent that money on both, I could see how one would be annoyed that their child is now hungry because you spend it. Again, I understand what the moral compass should say about that.
Doesn't this is really a question with a question mark. Doesn't child support become an income stream for the person receiving child support?
An income
Is
stream?
it a taxable income stream?
No stream.
Like a stream. Like, okay,
Yeah.
so like that comes
because they get to count it on things like when they say what's your gross income, then they get to list child support.
So they get to list that, right?
Yeah.
So that becomes one of the income streams. So really, technically, it's just cheaper to keep her because
It is.
because at the end of the day, if you're paying child support, that means that that's part of her income stream, just like any other job or check that she would receive. So therefore, her money's that she's spending in her household kind of goes towards whatever she chooses it to go towards, even if that means that it's split between her children, because now your child support is part of her income stream.
So however
And
she
so
allocates it,
that would be like what she gets from work. She doesn't just spend that on her.
That's true.
She spends that on her family. If she's getting money from another person, she's spending that on your child and his child, because it becomes and that's if that's what it is. And that's why it's a question. I don't pay child support.
Any money she spends
I kept her.
of
It's
her
cheap.
own, any money she spends on her own for her kids is irrelevant. It's irrelevant when considering that there is a father sending his whose money is specifically for. So any of her other income streams outside of child support is, or he or she. I hate that we keep saying she as if it doesn't happen.
he can get it too. That's what I'm saying.
All that, because I've been a single father, and I in any of the cases, But just that to say that any of the other incomes, the difference would be those incomes is whatever she wants to do with it, and of course she should be spending it
that was the
evenly
question.
or uneven to all the children.
Legally, the money that comes from him, is it legally supposed to go towards his child, or is that legally an income stream for her? Because if it's legally an income stream for her, then that's just part of the household. That's part of what you
Her
You
bank,
got to
like,
chalk
that's her
that. You
purse,
got to
yeah.
chalk that.
I honestly was under the impression my whole life that that's what that was. Even as a kid, that child support is like supposed to not just help me specifically, supposed to be like a stream of income from my mother. That's what I was under the impression of. I don't know if it's because I was like speaking through my own lens, but even as a kid, I thought that like child support, like this is for us. This is to help support us, because if my mom's good, then we all good, because she's going to take care of us. But that's assuming that the mother is ethical.
Yeah, well, and it's actually not. It is for, but I think, and hopefully Todd right now, because he ain't said nothing in a while, so I'm assuming he might be looking up. No, I'm saying he might be looking up the law. He might actually be looking up the law, but I think it's for. I think it is for the mother. It is for an income stream for the mother to use to take care of
The household.
that child,
The child.
which will include all the things, right? It includes like I bet that
Providing
this same person probably would have been a lot more okay if it was like, okay, she took my money and she spent it on the PG&E. Now, to Todd's point, if she spent it on PG&E, she can't just ration and say, well, this child doesn't get to enjoy the heat. Right?
I don't know how accurate this is, but the internet, because we know Web or Webster, as he's known for in some places,
666.
knows everything. Supposedly, child support payments aren't considered taxable income. Now, is the implication then that it's strictly for a specific child? I don't know if you can grab it from that. Is the implication?
Do you want to look that up?
I was trying to, but I wonder how to tweak it. Maybe I'll just type that in there and see. But to go back to the original point, if my child is being taken care of, then I don't necessarily know if in fact I would be concerned, or even the courts would be concerned about what she's doing with the other money, unless of course I can demonstrate
the courts concerned.
as long as the child is
That's
taken
the
care
problem.
of. Well, I mean, but
Because
they're
they get
not
to make
concerned.
money. The courts are
right.
making money off of that.
That's why
the courts make money for child support?
yeah,
they tax it.
They
Let me just give you an
support isn't
example.
taxed.
Cross
No,
the state line and see what
the
happens.
government taxes it. So if you owe $15,000 on child support, they're going to add just like a credit card, they add a APR to that thing. And you end up owing, like, in some years, even if you're paying it, you end up paying, interest on it. Yes.
Okay, so this thing says child support payments aren't considered taxable income. So you're saying, but there's an interest on the.
There is absolutely interest.
Okay,
I'm telling you, as not only a passenger, but as a client.
Okay, so then does the interest come into play if you're past or even if you're current?
Yeah, like if it's today.
I'll put it this way.
And I'm asking.
No, that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Like a question that you're asking. I don't want to profess to know all the intricate details of how child support works. What I can say is that I have paid child support, been paying child support. I know what it feels like to be behind on child support, and I know what it feels like to be current. And I know that when you owe child support, if you have a back amount of child support due, there absolutely is a interest on that. Now, the problem with that is, how you put a tax or an interest on back child support?
Mm-hmm.
Like how does that even make sense? This is money that has nothing to do with the child's care.
No.
Nothing.
Does that go to the woman or does that go to the courts?
It goes to. Well, I know it goes
Probably
to the
the
government.
state.
I don't
To the
know
government,
how
that's
that,
what I mean.
More like just the state,
Yeah,
or that's
or the
what I would
state,
think.
right,
I
yeah.
would figure the state. I'm sure the
So, yeah,
government.
so, yeah,
but in
that-
that case, the state is going to take any and all money off
Yeah,
of it.
that's what they
any
do.
money that you have to pay, especially
That's
if
what they
it's
do.
back pay, because
They
my thought
invest in
process.
that money.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
watch this. My partner pay $400 a month, right? For some, that's nothing. For others, that's a lot. $400 a month, right? He owes $40,000 in child support. Out of that $400 a month, only $60 goes towards lowering the amount that he owes in child support.
that's
The
a
rest
loan.
of it is just
I was about to say that's just like a loan.
right. And then watch this. And then yet he only get to see his kid
That's jacked up.
maybe a couple of weekends a month. He gets to and that's the core. And I get it. Like,
there is a solution to
That's not
that.
always the case. That's
There is a solution.
it's not nothing that we're
Marry up.
saying is always the case.
But let me ask this:
it's all situational.
if the lady
Marry up.
has a couple of kids, should he take
You said
care
marry
of
up.
both kids?
Marry up.
Should you take?
I'm trying to tell you.
Should he
because
take
if
care of
gets
both
with somebody
kids? Is that
makes
the
more
case?
money than him? Or let me take that off. I don't need to be telling people that. But
Why
if
wouldn't
he
the
marries
court-
someone that makes more money than him? That's going to lower that.
If there's two fathers in the scenario and the state is making one father pay,
Right.
it should be automatic that both fathers
Right.
pay then.
We really don't, we really don't know what the court is because he didn't present it. But I would throw this in. Let's say you don't pay child support, right? The state is still going to pay something out. That's why they're taxing them. They don't say, like, if I have a child, I don't. But if I have a child and I don't pay, it's going to, obviously, there's a backlog. But the state will still give money. That's why they're taxing you. Because they're saying, you forced me to give money when I shouldn't have to pay.
If you're talking about support through the county, right?
Right.
So if
That's
a
what I
person
mean.
gets on welfare, that's
Right.
actually how people end up getting,
Right.
or we don't call it welfare no more, right? Cal
Maybe
Fresh or
Cal
whatever,
Fresh or
whatever the deal.
I mean, that's why I think they're.
But yeah,
I'm not saying that it's a fair tax. What I'm saying is because the state doesn't say, well, we can't pay this money out simply because the father didn't provide. But what they do say is, since the father didn't provide, we're keeping a track. And when you finally can provide, you owe us.
That's a loan.
That don't
Yeah.
even make sense.
I mean, that's
No,
I think that's how it goes.
not what you're saying doesn't make sense. That actual law, like for instance, for example, if definitely that
Makes sense.
So if a person goes and gets on welfare, male, female, they have a child, and they single parent, and they get welfare for the child. Then that they got this welfare all this time. Now the absent parent, right, is the person who has to actually pay back all of that money unless they can't find the absent parent or they didn't list them or they said, I don't know where this guy or this girl is. And so then they don't charge them. But if they do know, then that other absent person has to pay it all back. And what I don't understand about that is when you get food stamps or food card, EBT to buy your food, and you also get money for that, right? Well, all of that's for the child. Some of it you get for you. At the end of the day, the absent person has to pay all of that amount back. Why? Why wouldn't both parents have to pay back what the government gave, or the county or whoever gave to this child? Why would it only be the absent parent? Because the money was given. So it wasn't earned, it was given. So why wouldn't both people have to pay that back?
Pay the interest?
No, the entirety of it. In other words, if you're taking care of the child and you get $500 a month on welfare to take care of the child and all of that, you're given that, right? And you're using it for the child and doing as best you can with it. I'm not against that. But then, okay, 10 years down the line, now you owe $50,000 is how much you ended up using of their money. The person that was absent has to pay all of that back. But why is it just that person if that money was used for the child, right? If that's why you were able to get the money because it's for the child, why wouldn't both people? I could see how one may have to pay more because they didn't do the actual work and you're being charged for these other things. But for the most part, I'm wondering, why wouldn't both people be responsible? I'm not expecting anybody to necessarily have the answer, just for conversation. Why wouldn't both people be responsible for that amount? Why does it make sense that only the absent one is responsible?
I think it should be a split. I mean, if the other one parent's not in the house, but both parents are getting the benefit of the funds that are used to take care of both of their children, I think there should be a percentage of the maybe the majority would be to the person who's not there, but it might not. He might not be there. He might want to be there, and she might not allow him. So that's a circumstance you have to think about. And yeah, I think both of them should have some kind of responsibility because they're both getting their child taken care of.
Don't have children. And then,
Wow.
I don't know.
Don't have
Don't.
children.
If them kids.
Have sex with the mango and the doll, and you don't have to worry about none of
Exactly.
that.
Mangoes-
Yeah, we
mangoes
brought it
cannot
back.
reproduce.
And the butt cake.
Get it on with the mango. They don't talk back. They don't want you to pay them anything.
They don't
Just-
talk
They're just
back.
there to please.
They just there to please you. Sweet, succulent mango.
Soft, plush.
On another note, let's play something from the great Denzel Washington.
All right, here we go.
Log on to kcbzradio.com and check the schedule for Situation and Circumstance Live, complete with music, live phone call access, and additional audio and programming, Anthony and TBT would love for you to be a part of the live broadcast and recording of Situation and Circumstance at kcbzradio.com.
Fail big, dream big, go outside the box. One thing my dad taught me when I was young was be different. That's the number one thing he stressed, was to be different. And the opposite of different is normal, and normal is the status quo. Don't settle for being the status quo. We have to go above and beyond. If you would have saw that YouTube clip, he showed it was 9 dots, and he had to connect them all. But the only way to connect them all without touching is to go outside that box. The marker went all the way up, went all the way to the right in order to connect all of those dots. That's what we have to do as individuals. I don't think we should continue settling for the status quo. And that's with politics, that's with relationships, that's with college, that's with everything. I think we've exceeded our time of just going with the flow. We can't go with the flow anymore. We have to be the flow.
And to add on to what you said about being different, I know myself as an individual, I can't speak for anyone else, but the biggest challenge for me in the being different is to be aware of your ego, because I think your ego is going to be the number one deterrent of being different. And your ego can put you in a lot of real bad places.
Yeah, facts. And being different, in addition to that, you have to be ready for people not liking you. You know, like, you have to accept that. Like, inside and out. You can't go to sleep like, oh man, that pissed somebody off. You could think about it, but you can't be consumed with that care, but you can't be consumed with 5 friends, with family not talking to you. You have to be ready with ruffling feathers of being disliked. But ultimately, that's who you are. I think we all were meant, we were all meant to be ourselves. So we can't rely on clones. You know, like at the tombstone, it's going to be unique to who you are. But if everybody did the same, if everybody followed the status quo, we can all have the same tombstone. So we have to create our own path. We have to create, and again, we have to be ready for people to not like us. And I don't think the majority of people are ready to feel like an outcast, and I understand. That's an understand, like, a human is not an island. So I understand we do need community, but never settle, man. Just never settle for the status quo. It's not enough.
I always thought that the role of leadership was a coveted, comfortable position, but it's not. You kind of got a target on you when you take that role of leadership, and that's why I think it's really important that you're a strong person that is not deterred and swayed by egotistical things.
When you speak about being different, I think that's important, and I also think that it'd be nice if we could get to a place where being different didn't make people not like you.
Right.
Where being nice meant people really enjoyed you because of your difference. Because, that's what unity is. Unity is really when different things do different things towards one goal. And the problem is sometimes we can twist up unity with uniform. And we think that everything has to be the same in order for it to work. And that's why I think it's important that we all, are doing our own thing the way we do it towards one common goal. And there's so many different elements to it, you know what I'm saying? Because like our bodies are made up of organs that all do different things towards one common goal of a functioning body. And we are organisms. So we should all be working, doing our thing, gelling with people that do things like us to complete this task. And I think that's how we get to that place of, self-empowerment or lifting up
to organisms.
Oh no, that's just
Look here.
that's how them brothers that follow Farrakhan speak. You know what I'm saying? You can change an organ into an organism in a second.
It is.
I
say
love
that,
about
and
that. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's funny how you say that in the correlation between the organs and all the organs in the body working in unity and for the body to thrive. And then when the organs are not working in unity, a lot of times a person becomes sick or possibly even dies. And if you bring that back to us as a people in a community, are we a healthy body?
Right.
Or are we sick?
Right.
Or are we dying?
And can you imagine having your whole body just be an arm? Or, you know what I'm saying? Can you imagine, you know what I'm saying? I don't want nothing inside of me but livers.
Yeah.
And maybe a doll.
You ain't going to survive.
One fetish. It's like, oh, Tiana must like that. No, I don't.
All right. You know what I love about what...
He can never... I brought up toes once, and then ever since then,
No,
it
you
was
brought
like...
up toes
You
multiple
brought-
times.
No, I did not.
And now
I
she
did not.
successfully did it today.
I did not.
Exactly.
I did not bring
Who
up
brought
toes.
up
Maybe
toes today?
twice max. And then after that, you guys were
Twice.
just like, oh, this girl, Tiana got that toe fetish.
It's all
I
right.
said getting your toe sucked is okay. It feels good. But it's not like...
Different.
It's
See,
my
different.
fetish.
Look at how Ad just got the biggest smile on his face after you said that. I don't know if he was thinking about a specific toe he sucked or if he was thinking about what he likes it or what that was about. But if you'd have seen his face just now when you said, I don't know if it was your
I just want
voice.
people to
He said,
be
did you say
open.
toes?
So
Right.
I just
You
had
heard?
Is it better to receive the toe sucking or to give it?
I guess you have to ask
I
someone
guess it
who's
depends
done
on the person and
Which one do you
what they
prefer?
like.
Yeah, right.
I've never sucked toes before, so
But you've
I might
been
like it, but I don't know. I've never.
And how about you? Have you been toe sucked? And you trying to figure out which one
I
do you
promise this
prefer
will be
to
the last
suck?
time I use the word organ
Hey,
on this show.
This was fine.
Wow.
No, I haven't entered that lane.
Foot worship.
what I love about just real briefly, what I love about what
They like it.
the majority of you said in these last few minutes is
This is like
that
touching it, licking it, sucking it.
Okay. So what were you saying?
I don't never.
You
Classic.
I'm very easily distracted, and
Yeah,
she's gonna keep
he ain't
talking about
mature enough
sucking
for
and
that.
licking. I'm not mature enough for that. I'll be the first to admit. I appreciate the things that were just said because what I noticed when Eric was speaking and when Abner was speaking and even you, Julius, is that I appreciate that even if in our minds we thought it was about a specific culture when he was speaking, or even if you were relating it to like, yeah, black people need to be this one organism, or the way our body works and how we work these things together. What I appreciated is that race and or ethnicity, culture, etc. didn't come up in that. And I appreciated that because even those of us who know that the playing field's not level and we have to continue to fight for people who are on the unfortunately the bad end of that leveling system, I appreciate that it's being said in a way that everyone can embrace these things that we need to do just in our human skin, right? To the things that we need to do to become better caring individuals and collective, right? And so I just wanted to acknowledge that how you guys put that was really well done. Oftentimes we get some of the listeners and they're like, "Oh, is this show just a pro-black show or what's going on?" Well, it's everything. We talk about everything, and we talk about it from the perspective of who we are in the skin, because that's who we
toes,
are,
right? We talk
including
about
our toes,
Came from the bottom.
right?
Toes.
And so, what I want to do, considering where we're at time-wise now, I want to give an opportunity. First, I want to certainly appreciate Todd. You brought not only a wealth of knowledge, but I appreciate your vision. And you didn't even share your personal vision with me. And just hearing you talk, I want to vote for you. Because when I can disagree with someone and they know how to handle disagreement, that's what this show is about. This is how we undo the Willie Lynch shizzle. This is how we undo that, right? By doing everything in opposite. So if he said we can't get along, if he said separate the young from the old, if he said separate the light skin from the dark skin, well, we're in here representing all of that. And we're able to have these conversations using our heart and not leaving it feeling like we're angry and we can't get there, right? And we don't even know what anybody's religious belief might be or what someone's necessarily. We don't know who's a Democrat or a Republican or other in this room. It didn't matter because we spent enough time respecting each other so that we can have these kinds of conversations. And this is the thing that I think will help us. If we model this, then we can get to that area and that place that we're all so hungry to get to, and deservingly so. All right. I want to, before we're really here wrapping it up, but I want to give everybody a chance to kind of give a really brief. And so that I'm going to have the hardest time with the brief. But I want to give everybody a brief.
Sorry.
See how Julius be doing.
That cuts into your time, Julius.
That's part of your time. Say some more now. It counts.
I didn't know you had a hard time being brief.
This counts
I'm
right now.
just saying.
This is that's part of your final. But I do want to give everybody an opportunity to just share a beautiful final thought. We want to leave them with that because in some places in the world, this is the end of the year for them, and this show is broadcast all over the world. And so, if everybody could, just what is something brief, 30 seconds or less that you want to leave people with if they happen to be in one of these places where it's the end of the year for them. Let's start with Eric. Yeah. He's doing some kind of hand dance right now. Ninja moves.
I just got what you said. Yeah. Man, be nice. Be nice. And do what Denzel said in the rest of that speech later. He said, I hope that when you go to bed at night, you put your slippers underneath your bed so that when you get up in the morning, you have to get on your knees in order to find them. And while you're there, say thank you. So that's it.
That's good. That boy good. That's my other cousin. Well, that's my cousin. You know what I'm saying? But 30 seconds or less.
Don't repeat it because you ain't doing it.
30 seconds or less. Let me stay focused.
That sounds like something I would do.
So, number one, don't hate. Okay, that's number one. But number two and three, equally important, you have to accept. I think that's the biggest thing that we have to do. The most important thing we have to do as a culture, speaking of black people, is we have to accept ourselves first. And then I think that would be easier, which is my third one, is loving. So once we can accept ourselves, we can love ourselves, and not ourselves individually, but love ourselves collectively. But that can't start unless we accept who we are. And I think that's the biggest deterrent in our community is just lack of acceptance with our hair, with our skin, with our mothers, with our fathers, with our brothers and sisters. I think we just have to focus on that. And the first one's don't hate, Mr. Classiq.
To go to this idea about being ordinary, I think we spend too much time being ordinary or sticking to the status quo. And so I like the earlier points of this idea of us being extraordinary, of us going outside the lines. And also amplifying those differences, because when two different chords come together, they make harmony. And so if we can take our different chords and make that harmony, I think that's how we not only build that composition and it becomes that song, but more so it changes how people see, feel, and react, not only to us as a community, but us each other. So, yeah.
Well, everybody wants to say these super poetic things. Two bridges come together, they meet, and when they pass over water, I have nothing. Two bridges come together, and I'm just rambling.
She said bridges.
Bridges. I'm rambling, but Right. No. I don't have anything like that to say. I think that something that I've taken away from my life that I want to pass on to others in the past few years is to take time for yourself and for your mental health. And yes, love is the goal, community, unity, all of that. But at the end of the day, you got to take care of yourself, and you need to give yourself the rest that you need. And some TLC, whatever it is that you need to just have that release, and understand that Julius got me the book, The Alchemist, and in The Alchemist, one of the overarching messages is that you have to set your intentions and what you want out of life and basically what you want out of life, and the universe is going to conspire to help you reach those intentions. And so that's one of the biggest lessons that I'm learning right now, and just go follow your journey.
All right. Happy New Year's to everybody. And this year, one of the things I'm working on is knowing myself. And I spoke about egotism and recognizing and understanding your ego and how it works, and recognizing and understanding past pain. And I think once I'm able to do that more successfully, it'll allow me to connect more with other people, thus for bring the love and understanding and compassion into my life on a greater level. And I think that's something that anybody can take to the bank.
All right. Well, once again, everywhere on this planet, there is a new year happening somewhere, and we want to embrace. What do we want to embrace? As always, we promise our listeners that we will continue, just like I just did, to make beautiful mistakes. We embrace the opportunity afforded by our ancestors to speak, whether right or wrong, weak or strong. We be learning humans, working on liberation and scaffolding a meaningful and fair existence for all. Till the next time, my netches. Uhuru.
Situation and circumstance. Fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance. Can we see each other with only a glance? Situations and circumstances. Fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance. Can we see each other with only a glance?
Cake mix and race mixes, matrix, kill the witches, 3 digits, made of 6s, KKK or white privilege, old spirits, blood riches, real hatred, fake forgiveness, skinny image, fat problems, I don't really know how we solve them, God's